is it? The second I start like recording, I need to sneeze.
Do it then.
Well, now I've said it. It's like you need to sneeze up until you like say that you need to sneeze, and then the need to sneeze just disappears.
Yeah,
which is entirely ridiculous.
Yeah, if you say something, if you like say an odd word, then it will stop. Or if you look at bright light.
Yeah, I think if you look at a bright light, it actually makes it happen. But I'm not sure. I mean, I'll probably sneeze randomly, but if I do, at least I'm sort of like given a pre-warning. Thanks in advance. So, welcome everybody to the third episode of series 2 of Angel's podcast with Shannon Clack and
Anna Marlon.
Are you gonna say your name?
I said it.
Hey. Did you? Yeah, okay, cool. There's a lag. So obviously COVID is still going on. A couple of days ago marked the year anniversary of lockdown. So we are still doing these things remotely. So if there is any of us talking over each other or just general moments of confusion during this podcast, it is because we are working on Zoom and my internet sucks. And there's probably a lag between what we are saying, which is always so helpful when you're trying to be professional. We love it.
Yeah. Also filming, also like doing Zoom interviews at like 3 o'clock. For some reason, at 3 o'clock, my internet always goes down. It's when like America wakes up as well, so they're using Zoom at whatever time they're using it. Yeah.
That sucks. I mean, it's just another reason to feel angry at America, to be honest. I mean, there are so many, but anyway. So, full disclosure, I am in a very caffeinated mood. I've had like 5 cups of coffee today, and I am in like a weird, irritable, buzzy mood. So, I mean, what better topic to be discussing in this state than feminism?
Well, I'm on the complete opposite spectrum. Perfect. I'm really like chill, can't be asked to do anything. Just might as well have a chat.
I mean, that's always good. We were balancing each other out in this podcast. That's it.
As we do, as we always do. Yeah, Shannon, exactly. You said we're talking about feminism. Do you want to go into that?
Yep. So the reason that we are talking about it today is that in the last couple of weeks, it's come back into like the forefront of public discourse because of the Sarah Everard case. Not that that's the only instance of women being targeted, murdered, assaulted, raped, etc. But it is one that caught the headlines because of who did it. It was a police officer, for those of you that aren't aware. He decided to take it upon himself to take the life of a woman, and that's basically caused a lot of outrage. And that's sort of like why all this is come back up again. It's why it's a hot topic again. Not that it ever should have been swept under the carpet, but
yeah, I think what I've been seeing on social media is one of the main reasons it's come back to light, because Sarah, she took the precautions that a woman unfortunately has to do when walking home alone. She told her boyfriend that she's on her way. She let her friends know that she's leaving. She wore sensible shoes. But unfortunately, that didn't stop a police officer, someone who we were supposed to trust, to take her life. And so it's that, you know, what else can a woman do to keep herself safe? Like, there's this whole thing about, oh, women should be protected. Women should not wear short skirts. There's this whole thing about ripped jeans right now that would stop women from getting raped. But now it's starting to change when it's not about protecting your woman, it's about educating your son. And it's not saying that every single man is a predator and is about to get you, but unfortunately it's a massive majority that we both realize that we have to take care of ourselves. Sorry, my sister's in.
I mean, there was this it's all right. There was like this cartoon going around, and I'm trying to find it so I can credit them, but I cannot. Oh wait, I've got it. The words are by Christina Malone. I saw it on Screenshot HQ's Instagram
Screenshot.
feed.
Check my
Yeah, and
article that I wrote
the
for them.
images that yeah, the images were by Vulgar Drawings, and the words are by Christina. And it was basically because, like, the same way that when Black Lives Matter came out, a load of racists started saying all lives matter because they completely don't understand the whole point of the movement. People started saying, like, not all men, when women were talking about how common it was for them to get harassed, assaulted, and worse. Because I think it was a Guardian survey, I think it was done by the UN, but then the Guardian published it not too long before, or around the time that Sarah Everard went missing, and it said that 97% of young women in the UK are sexually harassed in their lifetime. And obviously, as a response to that, all these men were like, yeah, but it's not all men. Well, it's like, I've seen people say it's 3% away from being all women, so we are right to be concerned about it. So this cartoon, like, links to that not all men thing. And they use the example of ticks.
Of ticks,
so
yes, I saw
it's
that.
like the cartoon says, like,
I was going to mention that afterwards.
Be careful of ticks, they carry Lyme disease. And nobody says, well, actually not all ticks carry Lyme disease, because we understand that there are enough ticks with Lyme disease for us to have to be concerned about all of them. And so it's like no different with men. Like, it's not all men, but it's enough men for us to have to be concerned about all of them, because it's not that it's everybody, but it could be anybody. And, like, I just don't understand how they don't get it.
No, I think they do. They're just trying to, like, it's a thing like, well, I don't do it, so surely not everyone does it. It's like that kind of self-righteous thing of needing validation, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like you said, it's because they're not doing it. They're like, well, I'm not a part of the problem. But it's the same when it comes to, like, the racism stuff, and it's like, it's not good enough to be non-racist, you have to be anti-racist. And when it comes to things like sexual hate, like sex crimes, basically, it's not good enough just to not physically do them yourself. You have to be intervening when you're seeing problematic behaviors come about.
Oh yeah.
Like, if you know that you've got friends, if you've got friends that are misogynistic or make inappropriate jokes, like, that degrade women or people with vaginas or trans people or anything like that, then, like, you have to stand up and be like, that isn't cool. Like, you can't just laugh along uncomfortably, because that you're literally saying that what they're saying, like, their behavior's okay, and that
kind
just
of enabling them and not saying anything.
Exactly, yeah. So
I think
it's
I might have cut you
off. The whole thing makes me angry. No. What were you gonna say?
No, I'm saying it enables them. It's kind of an enabling thing.
Yeah, definitely.
But
definitely.
Fortunately,
So
still
in addition to all of that, like we said, there's lag.
Yeah. Do you want to speak then I'll speak?
We live in a world, what? Oh no, you speak, because I was going to move on to a slightly different bit. So
yeah, I was gonna say we live in a world where unfortunately women still have to feel the need to wear a jacket on a hot summer's day if they're wearing something sleeveless, or have to cover up their tights, or have to wear a longer dress in order to feel safe. Where it's kind of like, there's something I see in, like, Indian dramas, the women that get attacked are the women that cover themselves up. I don't know if this is like a thing to show that, oh, doesn't matter if you cover up, you're still going to get attacked, or if it's like, it's just wearing different clothes. Like, I've covered myself up before, and I have been verbally harassed on the street. It does nothing. I can freaking cover up in a woolly jumper and wear a bear suit and it will still happen. It's more about educating well, not all men, but every man on how to educate people and not enable and just not be overall wankers.
Teaching men not to be wankers, that is a tough task.
A conversation about teaching men to not be wankers.
The title of this podcast, and then we'll get bashed as men haters. And obviously this is just said in jest, men have purposes and they serve them, and also
no, you speak. You were saying something good.
I was just gonna say, And gender isn't like binary or fluid anyway, so it's sort of ridiculous that we've still got this like man versus woman thing going on, where women are still like victimized and men are still the perpetrators, when we're also in a society that's like, oh, but you can be gender fluid, you can be non-binary, there are trans people, you know, like gender is literally a social construct, and we know that. Like, it's a thing in public discourse, everybody talks about it, you know. So why do we still have this issue? Why is it still a problem when we're like, when we know what gender is and we know that it's bullshit? So why are we still victimizing people based on it?
Yeah, and
It's just insane.
yeah, and I think going back to the topic, like we're not villainizing all men. We're not saying, oh, men are trash, men are this. It's the men that, you know, how do you say it? Like the men that do the things that make that increase the stereotype that men are sorry, I completely forgot what I was going to say. It's the men that reinforce the stereotype that men are trash by saying derogatory things, being misogynistic, and treating women like shit, or anyone like shit.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's extra about the Sarah Everard case, obviously, is that we have to acknowledge that she's a white woman. So,
Oh
and she
yeah,
was quite affluent. Her job was pretty decent. She was young, she was pretty, she was white, she was, you know, she was living a life of relative privilege. So the fact that she's got all this media coverage, she would have had a decent amount even if a police officer hadn't been involved,
oh yeah.
because of the way that the world currently is, and like the systems of oppression that say that your life is worth more than their life, and that's why you get more coverage, because it's more shocking when it happens to you,
Standard
because you're more
average
like
white
the
British
average
girl,
person.
unfortunately.
Exactly. So we have to acknowledge that, like, there are loads of people, black women and women of color, indigenous women, that have gone missing, that have been murdered, raped, attacked, like, on the daily. So many have been taken or harmed, like, since Sarah Everard, and at the same time as Sarah Everard, that haven't, like, we don't even know their names. So this isn't, it's not like this case is rare. It's not like this is something that hardly ever happens. It happens all the time. It's just
Yeah.
for it to be somebody in a like position like Sarah Everard was, for some reason that's just like more shocking and gets more media attention because of like innate racism and just like complete ignorance towards everybody else that isn't white, everybody that's considered the other by the media. Yeah. And secondly, obviously, the police were involved. Again, the police.
The
What is
people
their
who are
problem?
supposed to trust and believe in, and like it's still with the Black Lives Matter case, you can't, unfortunately, if someone of color were to go to the police, would they be treated fairly? I was reading something about a black woman who was disabled, and she made a complaint, but she was named to be the villain while the perpetrator was the victim. Um, in this case, it was uh, just like, was he like just like a normal police officer, or did he have a special position?
I don't know. I don't know. I've got like one of the videos from Now This Politics from like
Hmm.
the 17th of March, and it just says like police officer.
Yeah,
I
so a police
mean,
officer who was supposed to go to if we were in trouble, or the one was the one that ended up doing the crime. Just who
yeah.
can you
And it's
trust
like
in
they were
this
quick to emphasize you can't trust anybody, honestly. And they were like, oh, he was off duty, he was off duty.
He's
But
still a
that's
fucking
like
police
literally
officer.
not the point. Exactly. Like, really? Are these people not like vetted? So they can go around killing and harming people of color, killing black people, harming, murdering women, and this is all just like, I mean, what?
But you,
The
how can you
taxpayers
vet
are
these
funding this.
people?
Why?
I mean, there's no. I mean,
Well, they're
how can you?
supposed to be like DBS checked and shit, but they always get away with it. And the problem with things like DBS checks is that they only work if you've ever been like criminally charged. And most
Yeah,
people, especially white people, especially white men, especially white middle class men, get away with it. They never get charged. So then the DBS and things like that that are supposed to protect regular people from these monsters, the checks aren't working. They're not worth their salt. So we need like there needs to be a different type of vetting process. But the thing
yeah,
is, the whole system is fucked.
yeah. I just love how they're making the idea of putting plainclothes police officers in like the club and all that, and it's like a police officer was the one who did the crime, so they're gonna get under. What is it? Plainclothes police officers in the clubs where vulnerable women might be. Love that idea.
I mean, and I would prefer if it was like plainclothes female police officers, or
Yeah.
like,
Well,
do you
there
know what I
aren't
mean?
enough
Like,
female police
men
officers
should
now,
not be
are there?
allowed. Well, I'm not surprised when they're getting harassed and whatever within the police force.
Yeah. We also know
So
they're
that isn't
racist.
cool either. Exactly. Ugh. And I mean, the police just like shot themselves in the foot even further. Like they loaded another 10 rounds into their foot when the vigil happened for Sarah Everard.
Yeah.
And it sort of it like blows my mind. The people that were organising it, which I think it was Reclaim the Night. I think that's who was organising the
Yeah, I think
event.
that's what
And they
I
went to
believe.
Cressida. Yeah, cool. And they went to Cressida Dick and they were like, yo, we want to hold this vigil, work with us so we can put in place like people that checked it, made sure everybody was abiding by COVID rules, and just keep it running smoothly. And Cressida was like, CBA for that. No, I'm not doing it. And then they went like she went on the news, Cressida did, the next day when shit had hit the fan at the vigil. And she was like, well, if only they'd have spoken to me, if it was lawful, I would have gone. And it's like, sis, if you had spoken to them, if you had sat down with the people that approached you about this, it would have been legal, because vigils aren't illegal, protests aren't illegal, as long as law enforcement support it. So if you'd have sat down and had that meeting, it would have been lawful, but you chose not to. It's your fault. It's illegal. It's your fault that Met Police were sent in to what were peaceful vigil, people paying their respects and then like low-key protesting, but they were just holding like flashlights and stuff. They were socially distanced, they were wearing masks, there
They weren't
was no
bashing
issue until the
anything.
police came in and started manhandling. No, they were just stood there. And it wasn't until the Met came in and were like, let's just start pushing people, that things went wrong. Like, it was the police breaking COVID rules.
Yeah. And you wonder why people are saying defund the police, even that's not going to work either. People are losing their
I
trust
mean,
in the whole police system.
definitely. I mean, if the last like sort of like 3 years have told me anything from my seat of like white privilege, white middle-ish class privilege, it's that it's like all of these things have opened my naive eyes to the fact that like there is no place for the police in this world. I literally, I'm just, everything that they're doing is just making me want the abolition of the police and like swapping them all with community support officers,
I mean, it's not
because
really going
that's
to
what we
work
really
now,
need.
is
Is
it?
like, well, there's like loads of other communities that don't have police forces and they just have like community support. I mean, there are so many towns, like in America, there are so many towns without police and they have really low crime rates. That isn't why there's no police. There's no police because they're small communities and everybody knows each other and everybody helps each other. They've got youth centres and town meetings and all that kind of thing,
Yeah.
and when you've got like that community, there are lower rates of crime. So then you don't need these like twats running in with guns and batons, just like creating fear and creating anger and causing more harm than they ever do good.
Yeah. I love how, did you notice on the
But
news
that's
it was
my
like so and so many police officers injured, so and so in hospital, like police wise. And it's like, it wouldn't have happened if you guys just like, you could have been there, but you could have just stayed and not do anything.
yeah. I mean, there was a protest very recently that got like out of hand, which I don't think it was
Mhm.
linked to the women, like I don't think
It
it was
was
a
that
feminist
kill
thing.
the bill
I
one,
think it
wasn't
was
it?
yeah, it was linked to the bill going through Parliament that gave police more powers with protests.
Yeah.
Like to tell you when you could and could not protest, tell you that you couldn't like solo on your own just protest stuff anymore, that sort of thing, which is literally a violation of human rights. It's a violation of the Human Rights Act. But anyways, Priti
Mate,
Patel
from
does
what
what she
I've
wants,
noticed,
regardless of
yeah,
human
you
rights.
can break so many human rights rules. You can do stuff that is like worldly not good, but you can still get away with it. That's what I'm seeing. You can just do it.
You can
Just
if you're
won't
in a
be.
position of power. Yeah. Especially now that we're out of Europe, like there's not that extra body holding us to account over human rights. So maybe that's why Priti Patel wanted out of Europe.
Priti Patel's
Yeah, so that protest.
well, she's a hypocrite. We South Asians don't
Yes.
claim her.
You can give her to UKIP.
Fake, we don't want her.
No, true. I don't think Nigel Farage would be very accepting. So that protest was different to like the feminist ones, and that's the one where a police officer got hurt, and obviously that was like out of order with the violence and stuff. But people are getting scared that like it's becoming a bit of a dictatorship in the UK, and people get scared when they see more and more of their rights chipped away. We've spent a whole last year in lockdown with nothing changing. People are dying, and it's sort of the Prime Minister's fault because he's been incompetent for at least half of this pandemic.
Oh yeah.
And now, you know, in addition to being told what we can't do, who we can and can't mix with, when we can and can't work, not being given adequate financial, emotional, physical support if you've got long COVID, or if you can't work, or if your, you know, lockdown is having a strain on your mental health. In addition to all of that bullshit, we are also now being told we can't protest. We can't protest it without fear of increased police powers on our ass. And obviously, the more you take away from people, the less they have to lose.
Yeah.
But anyway.
No, you can vent. Vent all you.
So thank you. That is literally what this podcast has turned into. It's just turned into like one of us being angry about something.
Yeah.
So I mean, in a way to like channel my anger and irritation, I was looking online for like feminist groups and stuff, and like seeing if there was anything going on like locally, and I came across this newish organization called Love and Power, and it's run by a couple women. I think like they've done quite a lot to push like the oh, what's it called? Why can I not think? They've been that like they do a lot of campaigning, and a lot of people
Boot
underneath
camps.
like their organization as an umbrella. What?
I'm saying, I'm looking at the website. They do feminist boot camps.
Yeah, and a lot of underneath the umbrella of their organization as well, they have like there's loads of local groups doing like sorting and campaigning for local issues. They've been involved in pushing bills through, lobbying for things in like parliament and the like. So they're like quite politically active, which is always good. And I attended their introduction to feminist activism a couple of days ago,
Oh, the
and it was really
intersectionality
nice to
one.
see a group. Yeah, it was really nice to see a group that focused on intersectionality. Like there was a woman there that was looking into campaigning because her daughter is transgender. So there was like a lot about trans, LGBTQIA plus, black people, women of color in general, like Muslim women, Jewish women, and various other religions, and just like a lot of focus on how all of that and like ableism, that sort of thing, how all of it played together, classism. And it was nice to see something that wasn't like white feminism, because a
I
lot of
get
the
you, yeah.
organizations like and campaigns, when I look into it, it's like, oh, so this is just like a white women's issue. Like, I am a white woman, but I'm not interested just in that, because to me, like, white feminism isn't about revolution or change. It's literally about white women wanting to be ranked like white men at the expense of everybody else.
Yeah.
And I'm not about that. So it was nice to find one that's intersectional. And they've got a couple other of the boot camps, and there's more of the introduction to feminism sessions going on, so 10 out of 10 recommend. It was nice to chat to other people, particularly other women that shared my views and beliefs and actually wanted to make a bit of a difference and get some tips on how to do that. So
Yeah.
that was a nice way for me to calm down, to feel less like the world was going to shit.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the main things that happen in these type of situations is that while the world's going to shit, more people get together, more people realize like we need to do something. Like with this whole global warming thing, everyone's coming together, everyone realizes, all right, we need to get our shit together. And that's what's happening now. You know, movements are being created, charities are being made, move what is About Us? About Us is a charity, did you say? Organizations are being made that are trying to combat everything. So I think that's kind of one of the main lights at the end of the tunnels, is that people are coming together and recognizing the shits of the world.
Yeah, it's nice that some people are being inspired and actually mobilizing on the back of these things. It's just sort of like hoping that it doesn't, like, the wind doesn't come out of their sails too quickly. Like, as soon as it's out of the headlines, people tend to forget. And that's like
Yeah.
every time the black lives come into the spotlight, like a couple months later something else happens, and the majority of people, particularly white people, just like forget about it, you know. Like at the minute there's a push for AAPI, I think that's the correct initialism. AAPI. Because like because people are actually listening again. American Association, no, that's not right. Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, that's what it was. Yeah, it was AAPI. They've been in the headlines a lot recently, obviously after the massacre at the spas in America by a white racist bigoted twat, that because he was sexually attracted to Asian women, because society fetishizes Asian women in particular as being submissive and just literally there as toys, particularly for white men. This dude couldn't cope with it, and instead of getting therapy, he decided to kill them, which
To suppress his desires.
it's so gross.
Yeah.
But now people are actually listening to Asian people, especially Asian Americans, about their experiences, and it's so disgusting and upsetting that it's like there has to be some great big tragedy for people to actually give a shit.
Yeah.
Like for people to think about it, but then in a couple weeks most people will probably forget again.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of like this cycle that repeats itself every couple of years.
Yeah, I think you just reminded me that about the sexualization of Asians with the South Asian. Is when I was talking about covering up, it's I wrote a paper on this, was that there's this thing where the hijab is sexualized, and it's like blokes would from all over the world come to South Asia to see the women beneath the veil and see these sexy belly dancers, and like that's kind of carried on, saying that, oh, covering up, there must be something beautiful underneath that you have to see, type of thing. So then that's what's happening with when it comes to the East Asians. There's somehow this fascination of like the geisha outfits that for some reason are heavily sexualized, and that's where that idiot must have got it from.
Ugh, it's mad, but like it's mad. And I think things like porn don't help, and a lot of like major Western movies don't help,
Oh yeah,
because a
Aladdin
lot of the time
fucked.
it's like, oh my god, yes. I was literally just thinking about Aladdin when you were talking about like the jewel beneath the veil. I remember like Jasmine when she was like wearing that thing at the she was wearing a veil. I think she had like a red bikini looking thing on, and she was like
Yeah,
in an hourglass.
yeah.
I don't know if that was in Aladdin or like
Oh yeah,
Return
that
of
was no,
Jafar
that
or
was
one
in
of
the
the
cartoon version.
later
So the
ones.
cartoon version, they also had the harem dancers who were wearing the bells when the Prince Ali song was coming up. And with the Jasmine
Yes,
one, that was in the
exactly.
scene when when Jafar wishes that Jasmine falls in love with him, but obviously she can't do that. She pretended, and she took her veil off to look attractive and like distract him into to get Aladdin to like do his thing.
These things have been like playing into a lot of people's subconsciouses without really thinking about them.
Yeah, like in Sex and the City, there's a scene, I think it's the second movie, I can't remember, when I think it was Sarah Jessica Parker's character looks at women in burqas and just like pities them, like, oh my God, I feel so sorry for these women who were like forced to cover up and like, and there's another scene of where the women in burqas, they take it off and reveal to wear like, um, Western clothing. So it's just the
Mm.
sexualization and the thinking of oppression and all that.
Yeah, and I think that plays into like white saviorism as well.
Oh yeah. Oh, don't get me started
Like
on white saviorism. Don't get me fucking started. Oh my God. Don't get me started
well,
on the
that's
whole
for
cult.
next podcast.
Oh, don't. Oh, you just reminded me about the whole cultural appropriation controversy and that. God, you just
We're talking about race next time.
yeah. We kind of talk about the
But
Asian
because of
American.
intersectionality, you can't. Yeah,
Hello?
because of intersectionality, you can't really have like one of them without the other. Like
Yeah.
that's not real.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what a world we live in. But at least there are some people that are trying to make it different. You know,
Yeah.
dismantle the systems of oppression and start
Yeah, and
again from scratch.
it's like stuff like platforms like Galdem, which are made and are run by women of color, non-binary people of color, who are giving women of color, non-binary people of color, a platform to speak their truth, and it's growing so much. They're getting more recognition.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll hope one day. I have faith that we'll live in a world where everyone's just like equal and like everyone recognizes everyone. There's no need to like be this savior to save everyone. Everyone can just like be themselves. I have faith. We're starting to
Yeah.
be a bit woke now, so hopefully that will transpire.
Hopefully. And in the meantime, we just have to keep ranting about it and doing whatever we can to like
We have to make
support the
noise.
cause.
Fortunately, we have to make noise. Like how the suffragettes were getting noticed from rioting. Suffragists were doing jack. They weren't getting much attention. Suffragettes were. I didn't even know suffragists were a thing until I learned about them.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Maybe for one of these we should do like the history of women's protests, the history of
Oh, we can
whatever.
write a
Maybe
blog
we
post
should
about
do
it
an
on our new
educational series.
website.
Oh yes, have we not we've not even mentioned the website yet.
Oh, we haven't.
What a nice way to cap the podcast. We have a brand new website available at www.angelsnewsnetwork.com. Yes, it's a .com domain. We paid for that shit. And
Yes,
do
we
we
did.
regret it daily? Yes. But it's what we got now. So far, there are 2 articles on the blog. I think there will be many more after this podcast goes out. So far,
Arthur?
there's one about me doing a 3-day juice cleanse that made me irritable as fuck, and the welcome to our website blog post, naturally. So go check them out. Keep an eye out. More content will be on there, including clips from our podcasts and other audio and video packages also mentioned on there.
Yeah. Is there anything else we need to moan about?
I think that is a good amount of us bitching. We've covered a fair amount of stuff. Obviously, with things like feminism, we could go on about them for weeks. We could talk about so much, but you know,
We can do, or we
at
can
some
just
point you've
wait.
just
We can
got to
talk
go.
about Meghan Markle. Well, that'll be for next week.
I thought you wanted to do racism next week. Oh, well, I suppose it all works together, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Megan. I mean, I wouldn't say Megan's a feminist. Like, it's not because she was a woman she got treated like shit. Mainly because she's second in like not really close to line of throne, and because she's not white and British.
Yeah, she got a lot of hate for being American at the start, and she got a lot of hate for being
A
divorced.
divorcee.
And it's sort of like as it became certain, as it became sort of like certain that her and Hazel were going to marry, it was like, oh wait, what about the kids? What color will their kids be? Which is, I'm not surprised, because a lot of people were surprised, but we're forgetting like the monarchy colonized, like
So many countries.
you really expect that from those people?
Britain caused a lot of
I
issues.
don't. You've heard the thing that Prince Philip says.
You what?
Everybody's heard like the kind of shit Prince Philip comes out with. Like,
Yeah.
I will bring some choice quotes for next week, and we will talk Meghan Markle, racism, the whole shebang. We obviously we can't talk about all of it because there is way too much to get into one podcast, and also we've only got our sides of understanding and whatever. So yeah, but this is it. I think this is it for feminism for now.
Yeah. I'm satisfied. Are you satisfied? Oh yeah, we're gonna be satisfied.
I am satisfied. Satisfied for now. So thank you everybody for tuning into this episode. We recommend going and supporting any feminist charities you can. Check out Love and Power if you can. Go to a feminist boot camp if you can.
And for the blokes listening, educate yourself.
Exactly. Literally, don't be a dick. Remember, you can be a feminist too. You can go to the feminist boot camps too. You can support the same charities. Just because you got a dick doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
And
hashtag, just because you got a dick doesn't mean you can't make a difference. Love that.
Just because you have a dick doesn't mean you should be one. Yeah, so, and shout out to everybody that is gender fluid, non-binary, trans, that have this intersectional like hell because of, you know, the violence against certain genders or certain ideas and stereotypes and that kind of shit. It's all just a big messy ball of the same kind of shit, twisted different ways, and it sucks and it shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah, it's important to recognize them all.
Also when I talk about women, I talk about like WOMXN, you know. So if you identify as a woman, then you are a woman, as far as I'm concerned, when I'm talking about like feminism and equality.
Yeah, there's a whole other issue with certain diehard feminists not believing that transgender women are women. That's a whole other topic.
JK Rowling.
I mean, I don't know how people are shocked. I don't know how people are shocked about her. Like, I always, like, everyone knew it. I don't know why it became such a big thing now.
I mean, I never liked Harry Potter, so I don't feel like I've lost anything. I don't like her.
Yeah.
No,
It'll never be the same again.
Well, no. At least the actors came out against her, which is good.
As they should.
Definitely. So I think we've touched on most things. If we've missed anything, it's just because we're ignorant and forgetful, and it's nothing personal. Yeah, so thank you guys for listening to episode 3 of series 2. Check out our website.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you guys next week. Bye.